Transnational organized crime is a growing concern and threat to security, and that's according to Interpol's reports over the years, which have found an increasing interconnectivity between illicit trade and other types of crime, like human and drug trafficking, money laundering, as well as wildlife crime and arms trafficking.
That's one of the issues that experts from around the world discussed at the Interpol World Conference held in Singapore. And one of the ex-speakers joins us in studio to share his insights on this. He's Dr. Salih Hakan Can, Professor of Criminology from Pennsylvania State University. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me here today.
Now tell us a bit more about how transnational threats have been evolving and also as well some of the trends that we're seeing at the moment.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank Interpol World that's taking this type of the action to bring all the experts and academia and the companies that dealing with it, like businesses. So, well. All crimes are throughout the world. The crimes are declining, but not the organized crimes, because now the technology making it easier to commit and leverage, to make it faster. That is why it requires a little bit more. The traditional officers are not really ready for that. We understand. That's why the Interpol just figured this out and bringing all those people together to find a way that actually expel this process, and then they catch the bad guys really fast. Now, what they do from that perspective that I see today, they create the data sets, so making the academia actually use the data sets. When they use the data sets, and then they can bring some solutions, that the theories that explain why some people commit crime, their behavior patterns. Actors are not important anymore in organized crime. You know why? Because you don't see them, because they're all online. That is why. And the other thing is, actually, we learned today with the Interpol World, the major thing with all those, the different crimes, major thing is actually officers who are dealing with traditional ways. They have to have a better education, better training, and better knowledge. Now, this is the important point that we saw today, the Interpol World trying to bring together.
Okay, Dr. Can, I have another question. So there are other conferences as well out there,
yes,
and they've been saying that, in order to curb this crime, instead of focusing on the object, you focus on the money trail. What's your view on that? Because they say once you stop the illicit funds, it's impossible for them to continue whatever that they were initially thinking of continuing.
Yes, I mean, the money always is, especially in drug business, if you follow the money, you can find the people. Yes, that's correct. But organized crime is not only the drugs. And unfortunately, many police departments, because of their load, is focusing on only the important organized crimes, right? But now you know what happens with technology. They use cryptocurrencies. So where's the money? And how fast they can actually seize it. And how you can ask this question to anybody else. And when was the last time that the police departments actually seized the currency? Cryptocurrencies are everywhere. You have to be a really advanced police department to catch that. But don't forget this. Most of the crime now, organized crime, they're not actually in big cities. They're in small cities. And they're moving out. The reason that they do it, because the police departments in the small cities are not as advanced. So, Interpol now trying to see this problem and actually try to merge them together and create what we call it comparative understanding of this crime phenomena, because transnational crime, the word that you use, is not actually real anymore. It is multiple countries are actually getting involved. It's not transnational, it is multiple countries now.
And what are the biggest when you're talking about organized crime and transnational crime, what are they? Is it still drugs, human trafficking, or is it becoming increasingly more online and those sorts of scams that you seem to be alluding to?
Yeah, they are, yes, but you know, like, well, there's the prostitution, there's other crimes, you know, like, well, you buy Gucci, right? And Gucci says, for instance, that I sold in South Africa, there's a study just come up, and I read it a couple of days ago. Well, I sold 90,000 in the Gucci, you know, the products. But according to Gucci's and South African information, it says Gucci actually sold 250,000. Well, you can imagine that the rest of them are fake. Well, it is a part of this, and it creates so much money. But at the same time, organized crime is actually sometimes launder the money as well. So it's like a very complex area that actually expands and expands. Some crimes you don't even, like, what is the most important one for Singapore? Well, drugs, I mean, legal drugs. So they're actually creating fake Lipitor. So basically, like, can you imagine that the people are buying Lipitor? It is not really healing anything. It is so, it's a health issue. It's a bigger issue. So all of them is actually a part of this organized crime thing.
And so the biggest challenge you see right now is to get the enforcement up to speed with the technology. But it seems that most of the time, these people who are already using the technology are one step ahead.
Well, that is true. But the thing is, the legal side, we do have better advantage. Why? We can train ourselves. They actually get like by default training, but we can train better. So we can go top schools to learn this, like you know, like Harvard and Princeton, Penn State. You know, we offer this, and then you can learn that, and then you can actually do it better. Well, in research we call it pure research and applied research. Well, police departments actually have their own research analysis, but that is applied research. But in universities, we do pure research. We do research for the sake of the research. We find some ways, the theories that actually explain crime more complicated way, and then we don't need the actors. And we only find who can be the next criminal, for instance. We can create this predictive scales, and you know, that actually works better. One more thing I want to say, if I have time for you. Well, we, in research, we use really, research integrity is a big issue for us. So we use real data.
Right.
When we find something fake, we remove it.
So doing a preemptive and looking ahead as to who could be the next actors. Thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us. We've been speaking with Dr. Salih Hakan Can, Professor of Criminology from Pennsylvania State University.